Hello and welcome to Better Gaming, an event and podcast series dedicated to all aspects of ethical gambling, as we discuss how to make gambling and gaming safe, secure, and socially balanced for everyone. My name is Jim. I'm the host of the show. And on this episode, a very quick episode, I'm just going to be talking about the new research that has been undertaken by Nationwide that discusses the impact of everyday gambling amongst the UK population. I presume specifically amongst their customers. Those that are unaware, Nationwide is a building society in the UK, pretty much one of the big high street offerings. And they have got a press release that was done yesterday that has positives and negatives. So firstly, I'll discuss the positives. The positives are the gambling block and industry partnerships that they have launched and implemented to tackle problem gambling. That's a good tick. And also that they're the first to join a Gambling Harms Action Lab to enhance gambling support for customers. And that's a good tick. The bad things are that their research is showing rising tide of people developing gambling harm. That's the first bit. And then the second bit is there seems to be a reluctance to get support. And I think that's all to do with elements of stigma and shame associated with gambling. And that is something that needs to be resolved. So let me just go into the bones of the article. Up here, let's get it moving. Okay. The research was undertaken amongst Nationwide customers. There was a poll of 2,000 people. And instantly, one of the two headline stats in the research is that 1 in 10 or 11%, so just more than 1 in 10, gamble daily, and nearly 1 in 3 hiding their habit from others. So this is that stigma that we're talking about. 1 in 10 gambling daily, probably a little bit higher than anyone would like to see. Not excessively amount. I think it's a level of gambling. You know, obviously, if you're a lottery player and 2 of those days out of the 7 are purchasing a lottery ticket and the other 5 are on sports, it might not be such a bad thing. But obviously we know how gambling can affect people's lives, become all consuming. So you'd have to sort of like err on the side of caution with regard to that. But also it's that 1 in 3 in hiding their habits. And I think that is a real concern. So yeah, as mentioned, the poll was undertaken by 2,000 of its customers, or 2,000 people who gamble, and shows that while nearly 63% bet at least once a week, some 23% don't set any time or money limits. So that's not putting up, safe practices for everything. On average, people lost £351 over the last year, while 4% lost more than £1,000 on a bet or on a single bet. That's quite high. Well, certainly for me anyway. It might not be high for other people, but for me it would be high. And close to 1 in 10 have lost money they rely on. Now, out of all of that, so I was just highlighting and talking about the £1,000 bet. £1,000 bet may be not a lot of money for a lot of people, but 1 in 10 people having lost money in a gamble or a bet that they rely on is a lot more worrying than that £1,000, because essentially everything is relevant. And I think sometimes we can focus on the amounts that are getting bet on and the amounts that people are losing or the amounts that people lay down, but it's the relevance of that amount of money to their daily lives. And if they're betting against stuff that covers mortgages, that covers food, that covers education, that covers basic human living standards, then 1 in 10 losing money is something is really worrying. And then also worryingly, as I mentioned, 1 in 5, 20% wouldn't seek help if their gambling became a problem. And this is just something that industry-wide that needs to be sorted in terms of operators, in terms of regulators, legislators, governments, charities, all need to be at the front and center of offering support and being available at all points to help people as they develop or look to solve any gambling harm related addictions. Nationwide, obviously, this is a press release, so this is going to be espousing their goodness. And so they are continuing to invest in the support it offers to vulnerable customers. Vulnerable customers is a real passion of mine, and I always consider it when I am doing my day job as a loss remanager. And so they are saying that they do a gambling block. And what I like about gambling blocks, you can do the sort of like there's long-term ones, which is block me for like 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. But also I like the impulse blocks whereby you can see that if you have had a short period where you're putting a lot of money in, there's a weekend of sport coming up, and then all of a sudden you feel that you just really want to stop it, you can put a block down and it will take 72 hours for that block to be removed. So that can help switch off for an entire weekend if the weekend is your point where you feel that you're most vulnerable. And Nationwide's partnership with GamCare also means customers can benefit from gambling support. Catherine Townsend, Head of Customer Vulnerability, would love to have you on the show. What are you saying? It's heartbreaking that 1 in 5 people wouldn't go to anyone for help if their gambling became a problem. 100% agree with you, Catherine. People need to know support is available without judgment should they need it. And I think it is that judgment element. I think people really have this sense of shame about it. And it's nothing to be ashamed about. It's a courageous act, going and seeking help, talking to families, talking to people that can advise you and get you that help that you need. We made a conscious decision to offer a gambling block with 72-hour cooling off period. Okay, yeah, that's great. And she also mentions that Nationwide is the first financial services firm to join the Gambling Harms Action Lab, recently announced by the Money and Mental Health Policy Institute. Catherine goes on to add, again, it's that male bias. Close to 3/4 of the respondents gamble at least once a week and 15% daily. So obviously that high percentage is reduced for the female sector. And then again, it seems to be the men that are betting larger amounts. So on average losses of last year, 467 for men, 255 for women. And here is the kicker. This is right at the end of the press release. So the research also shows younger people are both more likely to gamble daily as well as gamble more money each month. Respondents aged 18 to 25 gamble £118 per month against an average of £81. And this is slightly more than the average 130 spent by 25 to 35-year-olds. This is the crux of the problem. There is a groundswell of gambling amongst a younger demographic, and I've got no problem if the gambling is educated, is informed, and is safe. But what we're seeing an increase in gambling harm, which would indicate that these are not the requirements that we are looking for in terms of safe growth of gambling. So that is a real worry. Let me just go on here. Nikki Bond would like to have you on the podcast as well. Head of Gambling Harms Action Lab at the Money and Mental Health Policy Institute said, financial services firms are in a unique position to help those experience gambling harms, and we're delighted that Nationwide has joined the Gambling Harms Action Lab. Our lab is bringing together a group of current account providers to work together to solve common challenges through the development of better support. Okay, well, we'll see how that pans out. But yeah, so that's a quick wrap up of the article and the research. So good things going on, bad things happening. Let's keep on top of it. Let's see how this develops. Do I like the reaction from the financial services providers, the building societies? Yes, I do. Got that free element of money movement and personal decision, but they just need to have these guidelines and these tools that the either players or the customers or the bank customers have control of in order to help align with safe gambling. Okay, that's all for everything today. I don't know whether I'm going to jump on before Christmas, but if not, see you on the next episode.